Okay, good morning, everyone. Reminder that this is being recorded and it will be on Great Tree Zen Women's Temple YouTube page. And a reminder about the practice of dana. In Buddhism, when Zen practitioners share their understanding of the teachings and practice, it is offered freely as a practice of dana paramita. Dana is a Pali word that means generosity or to give freely, and this practice is done without expectation of getting something in return. And this is the spirit of speaking about the Dharma. And other ways to practice dana are to offer support to those who share the teachings, to support places of spiritual practice, and to give without judgment of expectation when opportunities arise. Those who share the teachings at Great Tree do so on a dana basis. Please support their practice by giving what you can. You can either do this directly or through Great Tree, and we will pass it on to them. And so I'll put the dana donation page for Great Tree in the chat. And so you're welcome to donate there. And if it's for Chimyo specifically, please send an email to info@greattreetemple.org specifying it's for Chimyo. And I think maybe just send an email either way, just specifying what the dana is for. You're muted, Anne.
Thank you, Trey. I'm such a professional. Welcome, everyone. And I'm sure we're all of us who've been at Great Tree are familiar and with Chimyo, and glad to see her again. I'll just kind of review her Zen training in case anyone isn't familiar. Reverend Chimyo Simone Atkinson was ordained by Teijo in 2007 and received Dharma Transmission in 2015. She received her monastic training at Great Tree and completed Sotoshu International training periods in Japan in 2010 and 11. She also completed training periods at the Aichi Senmon Nisodo in Nagoya in 2012 and Ryumonji Monastery in Iowa in 2014. So, and currently she's living in New York City. Welcome, Chimyo.
Are we going to chant first, or how are we doing this time? Or not?
If you want to chant, we can chant, but we've been just giving back the merit at the end.
Okay, that's fine. I wasn't sure how it was going these days. But good morning, everybody. Excuse me. Let me just give a warning that my bandwidth is kind of thin this morning. So if I disappear, please forgive me. I'll be right back, hopefully. It's good to see all you and see your faces. And just to say, I've missed you all a lot. I feel a little unprepared today. I've had a really rough week. And I'm not going to go and get all into it, but living in New York in a pandemic is, well, it's interesting. I have some idea of wanting to talk about taking refuge this morning. And I've been scribbling notes all over the place, but then I wake up this morning and they make no sense. So, but that's not unusual. what I'm talking about, what I'm referring to, of course, is taking refuge in the three jewels. Take refuge in the Buddha, take refuge in the Dharma, take refuge in the Sangha. And this has been kind of a conundrum for me this week. Maybe last week, if I look at my notes, I had this whole big idea of what taking refuge was. But after this week, maybe not. Last year, I did a lot of talking about the Brahma Viharas, which is the, how do you explain it? It's sort of taking refuge. It's oh, I'm losing my words here. Let me go back to my notes. It's the it's talking about the abodes, is what I'm trying to say. The abodes of compassion, of joy, equanimity, so on. And I had made this big metaphor of this abode without a ceiling, without walls, without a floor. And this is what it was been like for me this past week. Where's the floor? It keeps getting ripped out from under me. And every so often, even being in this practice for so long, that always surprises me. That state always surprises me. You know, even though it's the basis of this suffering that we talk about all the time, you know, is realizing, you know, that there are no walls and there is no floor. And yet there is refuge. And all this week, you know, as things fell apart this way and that way, things that I prepared and thought I had in place, you know, proved useless. As the idea that, you know, that there was that the future that I had, you know, built up and created, you know, weeks ago of what was going to happen this week, proved to be this big old fiction, as it is, and all delusion is. Here I am again, falling through space. So what is refuge? You know, what is the Buddha talking about? What are the Arhats talking about when they tell us to take refuge in the Buddha, take refuge in the Dharma, take refuge in the Sangha, take refuge, take refuge. Where is this refuge? How do we exist in this abode, in this vihara, without boundaries, without the walls that we think protect us, and the ceiling that keeps us, supposed to keep us dry, and the floor that's supposed to keep us from tumbling, you know, through space. And it always comes down to this acceptance of the emptiness, this acceptance of there not being this quote unquote safety, this acceptance of this is the moment, here is where we are. And it always also comes back to practice. you know. It's that zazen off the cushion situation. It's that taking a minute in the midst of all this chaos or seeming chaos, in the midst of all this stuff we don't want, you know, all this suffering we're making because things didn't go the way we want, and just breathing. And just going back to what it is. Take the next breath. Understand, you know, that even in this next moment, things are going to change. Something else is going to happen. What we think is so important, you know, right now, will reveal itself to be so or not. This week, I had the lovely adventure of trying to register a car in New York during a pandemic. A very simple sort of thing to do anywhere and any other time, you know. This thing has taken 5 months. 5 months to put into place and send this fee and fill out this form and do this online and make this appointment. All these things that are very simple, you know, in any other time. You don't even think about it, really. You know, sometimes you just forget about it. You know? And still, even when things don't necessarily go right, it's still a very simple fix. Yes, nothing's a simple fix in a pandemic. We all have found that out in some way. So yesterday was the end of this little adventure of registering a car in New York during a pandemic. And all it had to happen was that a car that's in reasonably good condition needed to pass an inspection. I'm not going to go all into it, but it involved a little bit more than just going and taking it into the mechanic, hooking up to a machine, you know, and driving away with a sticker. And it wasn't really very smooth. So I'm just a detail. I've been parking this car upstate New York because I live in the Bronx and there's nowhere to park it because you have to do alternate side of the street parking every single day with 100 million people living in the Bronx. And that's not easy, you know. So I parked it upstate New York for the wintertime. Also, you know, when the snow comes in the Bronx, you know, parking spaces again get at a premium because the snow plows pile the snow up against the sidewalks. And so sometimes those spaces disappear. So I have it parked someplace else and I have to go upstate and do all this. So I got on the train yesterday morning and I went upstate and I started this process that took all day. I found myself walking on foot in this little town, thinking in this place that I'd never been before, that I had no plans on spending any time in, you know, kind of lost, being lost for a little bit in this little town. And thinking about, oh my God, I'm just blowing in the wind. Where is my refuge? You know, I'm in a strange place again. I have not, you know, I don't have what I want. I don't have the resources to do what I need to do. I don't, this object, that I own, that I'm calling mine, is getting away from me. Because if I don't get the sticker on, this thing can be towed, this can be taken away from me. I can get tickets, I can have more resources taken away from me. All this worry, about nothing, which seems like nothing right now, but my whole heart was broken over some silly, simple thing, because I've been trying so hard for so many months to get this done, and it didn't seem like it was going to happen. But in the end, there was a very kindly, compassionate mechanic who simply told me, drive this thing for 50 miles and we'll clear this code. Get back here at 4:30. I want to give and just pieces of the story. I don't even want to go over it again. There was, a nice, when I got lost driving this thing for 50 miles in an area that I had never been in before. There's a nice toll booth clerk and said, "Oh, you just missed your exit. It's just one more down. $1.75, please." Little bit of information. A kindly person. There was a minute, where, I had to make a decision, and I had to take all of my, my training. It felt like I was taking all of my training from Teijo and everybody else on down, to just sit down on a bench in this strange town and breathe for a minute and say, this is what you have to do. Do this now. Breathe. Just a little bit of zazen on a park bench in a strange town. Just breathe. Just remember, this is what it is. Breathe. And then get up 5 minutes later. Walk down to the mechanics, put the key in the ignition, and just start. Doesn't matter where you're going, just start. In the end, I'm sitting on the train coming back. I still have the car parked in upstate for safety and my sanity, because that's the best place for it right now. And, my resources, got a nice, good punch yesterday. I got on the train coming back into New York City, dug in my purse, and I lost my phone. So I sit on the train, and there's a minute, and then I just looked out the window, and we're coming through that part of the Hudson where there's the Hudson River, and on the other side, the great gray cliffs, gray stone. And I looked out the window, and I knew the phone was somewhere. And all I have to do is get another phone, cancel the account, calm down, calm down. And, there's this, it's sundown. It's about 5, somewhere between 5 and 6 o'clock. And there was this golden sheen coming right across the water, and the great gray cliffs of New York on the other side. I don't know if you all ever been to New York in the Hudson Valley. It's beautiful. And there was, the Dharma. glittering right in front of me. Just calm down. This is what it is. Here we are. By the time I got home, my friend whose car in which I had left the phone had called my sister, and the phone will be back, today. Somebody's going to drop it off today. There was a whole bunch of hours in which I created this suffering for myself over the littlest things. And yet, all around me was exactly what the Buddha said. The compassion of others. Just this, that equanimity, this, and the joy of the Dharma working, because it does. And the laying aside of all these things that I think I want. Just for a moment, to disconnect myself from all these ideas, all this wanting and desire, all this delusion built up around what is essentially nothing. And it's always nothing, always empty. So when we take refuge, refuge is not something we can build. It's something we have to recognize. In taking refuge, you have to let go of what's, I hate to say this way because it's, I wrote it this way and I said, that doesn't make sense. But taking refuge means letting go of what's outside of that refuge. That's so dualistic to say it that way. But I'm trying to get it, and forgive me if I don't get this across. But you gotta let go of stuff to take refuge in the zero, in the nothing, in the emptiness. All that stuff, whatever it is just what it is. It's here today, it's gone tomorrow. It's not even in your mind, 2 years from now. You forgot it was even happening. You forgot it even existed because it was there and it was important for the time that it is important. And then it's gone. And this is what it is right now. And I think I could spare myself so much pain if I could remember this all the time and not have to be reminded of it, on strange Fridays, on Freaky Fridays, like yesterday. So, I don't know what else to say about that because what I wrote, again, never makes sense. I keep coming to that wall for me where I'm trying to make some logical sense of the Dharma because I'm a human being and I think I'm so smart that I can put this in a box somewhere and pull it out, as needed. But here we are. So that's my, nonsense for today. I promise Jane always, I totally, she's gonna kill me. but I totally could not give her a title for this because it was, you know, I'm not very good at preparing for these things. And sometimes, you know, I'll say that I'm going to talk about one thing and it turns into totally another. And I'm kind of trying to accept that for myself, you know. I'm not very, you know, not very good at preparing for these things. And, you know, the Dharma is not fiction. The Dharma is the truth as it is right now, you know. And so what I wrote last week might have rang true for me at that time, just like this might ring true right now and might not make any sense by the end of the day. Yeah. Well, I don't know. But, you know, I'm just trying to do my best here and not, you know, not make a story. But I think that's all I have to say for today. So I would love to hear what's going on with you all, how you're doing, what you're thinking about. If you have any questions or any response to any of what I just said. So thank you very much.